Every single day, we're living in a world that has no borders, no mountains, no oceans to cross. It's a world built entirely on code and data. And it's an amazing place full of opportunity. But let's be honest, it can also feel a bit like the Wild West. So, the big question is, how do we bring law and order to this new digital frontier? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into.
So at the very heart of the problem is this. Cyberspace is this huge, amazing, interconnected world. But the fact that it's totally borderless, well, that creates some really unique problems for our traditional ideas of law. I mean, think about it. If a crime happens between someone in one country and a server in another, whose laws even apply? That's the puzzle we're trying to solve here.
So before we can even start talking about the laws, we first have to, understand the land itself. What exactly is this territory we're trying to govern? This first part is all about getting the lay of the land in this digital world. And that brings us to a really important idea, cyber jurisprudence. Now, don't let the fancy name fool you. Just think of it as the legal philosophy for the internet. It's not just about writing new rules. It's about asking the big questions. Like, how do our old ideas of law and evidence and jurisdiction even work in a world where everything is just an invisible string of ones and zeros? Okay, so once we have that big picture philosophy, how do we actually start building the rule book? Every frontier needs a sheriff and some laws. And for cyberspace, it all starts with a few different ways of thinking about how to create that order. What's super interesting here is that there's not just one way to do this. There are kind of three main schools of thought. The doctrinal approach tries to make old, existing laws fit these new problems. Then you've got the consensual approach, and you're part of this every single time you click I agree on a website. You're literally agreeing to a private set of rules. And finally, the realist approach, which might be the most practical. It basically says, hey, technology is always changing, so our laws have to change and adapt right along with it.
And in a lot of places, all this thinking led to some foundational laws, like the IT Act of 2000. A great way to think of this is as a digital shield for our online world. It was a total game changer. It gave legal recognition to electronic documents, it paved the way for e-commerce, and for the first time, it actually defined cybercrimes and set up a system to handle them. It's really the bedrock of modern digital law.
Okay, so we've got a framework for the law. Great. But just like in the real world, we need ways to protect our stuff, right? Back on the old frontier, you'd have fences for your land and locks for your doors. Well, in the digital world, we have our own versions of those for our data and our ideas. Let's check them out.
So the main lock we use for our data is something called cryptography. Before we get into the weeds, let's break it down real simple. There are two main types. Symmetric is like having a single key to a safe. You and I both have a copy of the same secret key to lock it and unlock it. Easy. Asymmetric is a little more clever. It uses two keys, a public key that anyone can use to lock a message and send it to you, but only you have the one-of-a-kind private key that can actually open it.
All right, so let's see how these actually work in practice. The symmetric way, over on the left, is super fast, which makes it great for just keeping things confidential between two people. The asymmetric method on the right, well, it's a bit slower, but that two-key system is incredibly secure. It's perfect for things like digital signatures and proving you are who you say you are, which we call authentication.
Now, what about your ideas? Your software, your music, your designs? How do we protect those? Well, that's where intellectual property laws come in. You can think of these as the official deeds to your digital property. A copyright is like a deed for your creative works. A trademark protects your brand's look and feel, and a patent protects your brand new, unique inventions. These are basically the legal fences we build around our ideas.
But of course, no frontier story is complete without the outlaws, right? For every lock we invent, there's always someone trying to pick it. So it's time to meet the common criminals of this digital frontier. This threat matrix really gives us a clear map of the dangers out there. The bad guys might target our data and systems, our identity and money, or even our personal dignity and privacy. The crimes can be anything from hacking and phishing for your passwords to much more personal attacks like identity theft and cyberstalking. The takeaway here is that cybercrime isn't just one thing, it's a whole spectrum of different threats.
So when these outlaws strike, we need a way to get justice. But, a traditional courthouse in one city just isn't built to handle a crime that happened in a split second across 3 different continents. This new reality demands a new kind of courthouse, one that's actually built for the digital age. And here's the brilliant solution: online dispute resolution, or ODR for short. Just look at the comparison. Traditional courts can be incredibly slow, super expensive, and their power usually stops at a country's border. ODR is basically the exact opposite. It's designed from the ground up to be fast, affordable, and completely borderless, which makes it absolutely perfect for sorting out the kinds of problems that pop up with global e-commerce. And this new system has a really clear structure, laid out here like a pyramid of justice. It all starts at the base with adjudicating officers, who are the first line of defense for sorting out issues. If you don't agree with their decision, you can appeal up the chain to the Cyber Appellate Tribunal. From there, you can go to the high courts, and finally, all the way to the top, the Supreme Court, which is the final word on cyber law.
So we've looked at the territory, we've looked at the laws, the outlaws, and the digital courts. But here's the thing. Real security doesn't just come from one of these pieces. It comes from how they all fit together, how they combine to form one integrated shield.
And this final idea really brings everything home. Think about it like this. Technology, like all that cryptography we talked about, that's our shield. The law, well, that provides the rules of the game. And the justice system, that's the enforcer who makes sure everyone follows those rules. It's only when these three pillars, the shield, the rules, and the enforcer, are all working together in harmony that we get a truly secure digital ecosystem.
And that really is the key. It's not about any one piece of the puzzle on its own. It's the powerful combination of all three working together. That is what really tames the digital frontier and turns it from a chaotic Wild West into a thriving, protected space for all of us.
But you know, this frontier is always expanding. We've got new territories like AI and the metaverse constantly popping up on the horizon, which leaves us with one last really important question to chew on. As this digital world keeps growing, what new rules will we need to write to make sure our future stays safe for everyone?